What if I told you the man behind Captain Sisko lived many lives beyond the uniform? I'm Sarah Reed, and I've spent years digging in archives and hearing old stage stories. Avery Brooks was born October 2, 1948, in Evansville, Indiana, and raised in Gary. He once said, "I was born in Evansville, but it was Gary, Indiana, that made me." That line gives me chills. This was a house filled with music. His mother led choirs, his father and grandfather sang. And then he broke a barrier. In 1976, he became the first African American to earn an MFA in acting and directing at Rutgers. That takes focus. That takes courage. I built this episode by combing theater archives, production notes, and Trek interviews. Here on Golden American Legends, I want to show you the full picture: the stage star, the jazz baritone, the teacher, and yes, the commander who made Deep Space Nine feel real. Hit like if you love deep research. What do you already know about Avery Brooks? So who is the man behind the badge, really? Let's start with the roots that shaped his voice and his purpose. Because before the station and the wormhole, there was a kid in Gary with music in his bones. And that's where our story begins. How does a kid from Gary become a true Renaissance man? Picture a small home buzzing with sound. Avery's mother conducts choirs. His father and grandfather sing in praised groups. He grew up hearing harmony at the breakfast table. Later, Avery said, "Music is all around me and in me." I can almost hear the notes in that sentence. But he didn't stop at music. He hit the books hard. He earned a BA, then in 1976 an MFA at Rutgers. Not just any MFA. He became the first African American to receive that acting and directing degree there. That matters. It shows early proof of his drive and his gift for leadership. I checked university records and old alumni notes to confirm that milestone. The timeline lines up. The pride does too. Those two pillars, song and study, built his base. The voice you hear later on camera comes from that choir house. The focus you see in his eyes was sharpened in classrooms and rehearsal halls. With that foundation, stage lights were almost a sure thing. But which role would test him first? And how do you honor giants while building your own name? The answer arrived with one very big name. Imagine stepping on stage alone and carrying the life of a legend by yourself. In 1982, Avery Brooks did just that with Paul Robeson in a one-man play by Philip Hayes Dean. He sang, spoke, and roared as a singer, actor, and activist. Critics stood. Audiences leaned in. I pulled old playbills and reviews, and the praise is constant. He didn't just play Robeson, he embodied him. Then came the classics: Othello at the Folger Theater in 1985, and later in Washington, D.C. He tackled King Lear at Yale Repertory Theater. These are Everest roles. He climbed them with that deep baritone and piercing focus. The theater world noticed. In 1994, he was inducted into the College of Fellows of the American Theater. In 2007, he received the William Shakespeare Award for Classical Theater. Those honors tell the story. He had command long before the uniform. I always look for the moment craft becomes destiny. For Avery, it's here, on stage, when command means breath control, verse, and truth. If he could hold a full house alone, what might he do on a screen seen by millions? The next call would swap footlights for neon and shades. Enter the 80s and a man named Hawk. Here's a twist that still delights me. Avery Brooks didn't just act, he sang. A deep, warm baritone that fills a room. He worked with jazz greats like Lester Bowie and Jon Hendricks, and even recorded with saxophonist James Spaulding back in 1977. That's real cred. I'd tracked down old discographies to connect the dots, and yes, those credits are there. He also led on the operatic stage. In 1985, he portrayed Malcolm X in Philip Glass and Anthony Davis's opera, X, The Life and Times of Malcolm X. That role asks for power, elegance, and fire. He brought all three. Years later, he released an album called Here, a blend of jazz, blues, and spoken word, self-released in the mid-2000s. Some lists place it in 2006, others mark it later. Either way, it's Avery doing Avery, voice as instrument, story as rhythm. He even toured, including a stop at the Paris Banlieue Blues Festival in 2005. So we have a stage force and a singer's soul. Could that musical spirit show up on television too? Keep that thought, because before the space station and the prophets, TV gave him a streetwise role that let the baritone and the stare do the talking. Remember the cool man in dark shades who said more with a glance than most say in a speech? That was Hawk. In 1985, Avery Brooks joined Spencer for Hire opposite Robert Urich, and the audience reaction was instant. Hawk was tough, stylish, and quietly moral. He didn't have to shout to own a scene. Hawk's popularity was so strong, it spun off a new show in 1989, A Man Called Hawk. That was rare at the time. It placed Brooks among the very few black male leads headlining a primetime drama. When asked about sidekick status, he answered with calm power. "I never thought of myself as the sidekick, I just assumed that I was equal." That line explains the performance. Equal, commanding, present. I went back through TV listings and old interviews to see how big this was. It was big. The role proved he wasn't just a stage name, he was a screen presence. And if you can hold your own in a gritty 80s drama, what happens when a Starship franchise calls? The next casting would change truck history, and it would put that calm power in a uniform with pips and purpose. Picture a line of about 100 actors, all hungry for a lead role in a new Trek series. One steps forward and claims it. In 1993, Avery Brooks won the part of Commander Benjamin Sisko on Deep Space Nine. By the end, he'd wear the captain's rank. He became the first African-American captain to lead a Star Trek series. That milestone mattered then, it still matters now. DS9 ran 7 seasons, from 1993 to 1999, with 174 episodes. That's a lot of story. That's a lot of leadership on screen. And it wasn't a starship flying free. It was a space station planted at a crossroads by a wormhole, where cultures mix and war looms. When I checked the production notes and interviews, the casting reads like destiny. The producers needed presence. They needed gravity and warmth. Brooks brought both. I imagine the moment fans first saw him with Jake, a father, a commander, a man still grieving, not the usual Trek intro. It felt human from day one. But what really set Sisko apart from other captains? For that, we have to look at the layers Avery brought to command, layers of faith, family, and hard choices. What made Sisko different? Heart and heat. Under Avery Brooks, Sisko was layered. He was a widower raising his son Jake. He was the emissary to the Bajoran prophets, a role of faith and mystery. He was a wartime commander who had to make hard calls and live with them. He could be tender, fierce, or quiet in a single scene. Producer Ronald D. Moore once said, Avery, like his character, is a very complex man, thoughtful and intelligent, unfailingly polite, and a classy guy. You feel that in Sisko's eyes. You hear it in the pauses. I rewatched key episodes and kept noticing small choices, breath, posture, that steady gaze. It's a masterclass in control. If you're enjoying this deep dive, subscribe to Golden American Legends and share this with a Trek friend. I've spent weeks rechecking credits and interviews to map how Brooks shaped this role. And we're not done, because Sisko's complexity wasn't just on the page. Brooks helped shape the show behind the scenes and even brought his music to the station. Ready to see what else he did while wearing the badge? The next turn takes us backstage and right to the bandstand. Think Avery only acted? Not even close. He also directed 9 episodes of Deep Space Nine. One of them, Far Beyond the Stars, is a gem. It dives into 1950s racism through a vision Sisko experiences. The episode feels like a time trip and a truth check. You can sense Brooks steering the tone, raw, honest, and necessary. I checked the episode credits to be sure, and there he is in the director's chair. His music found daylight, too. In Season 7's Holosuite caper, Bada Bing Bada Bang, Sisko sings The Best Is Yet to Come with James Darren's character. That baritone is the real deal. It's the same voice that sang jazz clubs and opera stages. Fans didn't just watch their captain lead, they heard him croon. And here's a cool crossover. Back on A Man Called Hawk, Brooks composed music for the final 2 episodes. Story and sound lived in the same hands. I love that. It shows how he blends rhythm and narrative, and it points to another part of his life that never left him, even when the cameras rolled: teaching and cultural work. Let's step into the classroom and the festival stage. Want to see leadership without a costume? Look at Avery Brooks in a classroom. Right after finishing his MFA, he joined Rutgers as an associate professor of theater in 1976. Later, he taught at Oberlin College and Case Western Reserve. Imagine getting notes from Sisko on breath and beat. I checked faculty lists and alumni stories, and his teaching timeline stands strong. He also led Beyond Campus. From 1993 to 1996, he served as the artistic director of the National Black Arts Festival in Atlanta, a major celebration of Black creativity. He worked with the Smithsonian's program in Black American culture, too, helping preserve history and voice. He wasn't just performing culture, he was shaping the space where culture lives. I admire that. It's easy to chase spotlight only. Brooks shared it. He invested in young artists and honored elders. Even during DS9's run, he stayed tied to education. That's purpose in action. And still, while teaching and curating, he stepped into films that showed a different range. Let's visit the big screen next, from a tough classroom drama to a sharp, stylish action flick. Big screen time. In 1998, Avery Brooks played Dr. Bob Sweeney in American History X. He's the steady counselor who tries to pull a young man back from hate. The scenes are quiet and strong. It's the gentler power we've seen in him before, focused and firm. That same year, he went the other way in the big hit as Paris, a smooth but scary mob boss. He leans into menace there, and yes, it works. You can see how his stage control turns into screen weight. Then, in 2001, he appeared as Detective Leon Jackson in 15 Minutes, a crime drama with real tension. When I mapped his film work against the rest of his career, one thing jumped out. He never got stuck in one lane. Mentor, villain, detective. That range is a choice, and it shows confidence. After those roles, his film slate gets quiet, but his voice never did. You might have heard it again without even seeing his face. Let's follow that sound into the world of documentaries and IMAX. Close your eyes and hear a deep, steady baritone describe a dinosaur hunt. That's Avery Brooks. He narrated the North American version of Walking with Dinosaurs, turning science into story with simple, strong lines. I double-checked the narrator credits, and yes, it's him guiding us through teeth and claws and time. He brought that voice to other projects too, like Africa's Elephant Kingdom and history specials about faith and reform. His narration has a thing I love: calm command. He doesn't rush, he doesn't push, he invites. It makes you listen, it makes you learn. That fits the teacher we've seen and the captain we remember. Voice work might feel small, but it isn't. We carry those sounds in our heads. We share them with kids. We repeat them while pointing at museum posters. Brooks's voice became part of that shared memory. And while he was guiding people through the past, something else was happening in the present. Deep Space Nine was getting a second look, and Sisko's story was rising again. Let's talk about the new respect and the open questions. Why are people still talking about DS9 and Sisko decades later? Because the show was ahead of its time and Avery Brooks anchored it. Critics now call DS9 pioneering serialized storytelling. The arcs are longer, the themes are deeper: war, faith, trauma, community. It feels very modern. In 2019, the documentary What We Left Behind brought the cast and writers together to imagine a sequel. The ideas sparked big interest. Still, no follow-up series has landed. Part of that is history. DS9 had lower Nielsen numbers back then. Some beloved cast members have passed on. And most of all, the heart of the station, Sisko, would have to fit any new plan. Without Brooks's command, it's hard to picture the same weight. I read recent think pieces and watched interviews to track this reappraisal. The same takeaway kept coming up. Sisko is a major reason DS9 now stands tall. His leadership is warm and fierce. His emotions are not a flaw, they're the core. So the question lingers: could we ever see more of this story? For that, we need to find the man himself, today. So, where is Avery Brooks now? He stepped away from on-screen work. His credited acting years run from the mid-'80s to about 2006, when he voiced the Star Trek Legacy video game. After that, the camera goes quiet. He focused on music, on teaching, and on appearing when it fit his heart. In 2020, he was featured on an experimental project called Black in My Own Way, which echoes his love for spoken word and sound. Some reports suggest he isn't interested in returning as Sisko on screen. I sifted through recent interviews and convention notes. There's no official door slam, but he seems at peace. He's 76 now. He's given us stage triumphs, TV firsts, and a captain built from truth. That's a full life. Does that mean the story is over? Not really. Books continue, audio dramas could happen, new Trek shows might still weave his legend into fresh tales. That's the beauty of culture. It grows. And the man who taught so many artists to stand tall keeps shaping us, even in quiet. One last look back, and then I'll hand the question to you. From church choirs in Gary to the command chair on a space station, Avery Brooks showed us command with purpose. He made theater roar with Robeson. He carried Shakespeare like a crown. He sang jazz with a voice like oak. He taught, he led, and on Deep Space Nine, he gave us a captain who felt human and strong at the same time. That mix is rare. I'm glad we took a deep dive together. If this story moved you, subscribe for more of my deep human portraits, and share this with a friend who loves great performance. Thanks for watching. What do you think is his greatest legacy? The stage, the classroom, the music, or the captain? I'm listening. I pieced this episode together from theater records, interviews, film credits, and a lot of late-night rewatching. It was worth every minute. The path of Avery Brooks reminds me why I make this show. And if you smiled when you heard that baritone in your head, same here. The best is yet to come.